I mean, I'm essentially in a pain that I haven't been in, and it wasn't terrible. It wasn't that bad. It was just uncomfortable. The most uncomfortable I've been during a race. And I set my 50K PR, so that's awesome. And hey, howdy, hey, everybody. This is the Light on the Trail podcast. This episode is a little different. The first episode in almost exactly a year. This podcast is almost a year old. We had a technical issue. I grabbed a wrong cord going somewhere else to record with some buddies, and my equipment was not able to hold the charge and cooperate how it was supposed to. So the first part of this is going to be the first attempt, the original of the recording, which would have been very good and awesome. But thanks to me for forgetting something and messing up, we had problems. So we're gonna listen to the first part of it, and then you'll hear the problem that started, and then I'll just pick it up solo like now and kind of proceed through it. But this episode is covering my first 50-mile race, the Chupacabra 50. And I told him that, and he wants to grab paper towels. It's like the roughest thing in the world. No. And more, yeah.
No.
I'm like, son. He's like, ow.
That's in an emergency.
Stop. Yeah.
His nose is raw.
Yeah. Yes. He doesn't care. Okay. Alrighty. Hey, howdy. Hi, everybody. This is Light on the Trail podcast, kind of a special or fun episode. So I did recently run my first 50-miler race, the Chupacabra 50. And on this episode, my wife is joining me, bringing her perspective on how it was, but also joining is the gang from Burleson Running Club. We have Lisa and Steven, who've been on some episodes before, but they're going to kind of do the question asking and just kind of give us more of a sounding board to talk back and forth and have fun with. So that's what to expect, and this will be very fun for everyone, I'm sure. And we can, since they've ran 50s also before, but we'll go from there. So I don't know if I should ask or say anything, but why don't whoever wants to tee it off?
Well, Frank, thanks for having us back. It's always fun to be on the podcast. And so you did the Chupacabra 50. Where was that at?
It was at Copper Breaks State Park, almost Oklahoma, which is, what was the name of the town? It was close to Quanah.
Quanah. Okay.
Quanah. Yeah.
I'm proud of you because you were definitely saying Cora for a while.
Probably. Quanah, Texas.
Close.
Almost Oklahoma. Yeah. About 4 hours. Was that right?
Yes, because originally you were like, it's only like 2.5 hours away.
Yeah, I don't know why.
And then I looked it up like the day before, and it was 4 hours. So
it was quite a drive.
It was
just enough to be a long drive, but we made it, and we went to we didn't camp.
Okay.
We went first. I was like kind of freaking out because we wanted her sister to come so she could have some company while she waited for hours on end. And so I was looking at like Airbnbs because there's nothing out there. We found a little hotel that was an hour away, so we only had to drive an hour in the morning. But we had a little hotel and then drove an hour in the morning to get there, and had about 30 minutes to spare, which I like to have at least an hour when you get to like a race.
Sure.
It's nice not to.
A long one.
Yeah. So it was rough, and then driving out there and then not sleeping good was rough. I think that led to some other things, but Quanah, Texas, which is way just up north, almost Oklahoma. But it's a really cool park. It's like a little kind of canyon-esque kind of feel.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And I was gonna ask something that I just forgot. So go ahead, Lisa. You got a question?
Were the kids with y'all?
No, they were not.
Oh, so it was just y'all. Okay.
Yeah, and her sister came.
yes, she did come with us, which is actually why we got the hotel room, because she does not camp. She does not sleep in cars.
Welcome to the club.
Yes, she. If there's no AC, she's not going. So.
Hey.
We were gonna sleep in the car. We were like,
yeah, we were gonna sleep in the car.
Let's just go get close to the park and go to like sleep in the car somewhere like a Walmart or whatnot.
Right.
I'm like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And save money. But I wanted her. I'm glad she came too. I wanted you to have some company and someone else too, or the drive. But yeah, so just the sister came.
Okay.
And then the race started at 6 a.m. I believe, and we got there like
Yes.
5:30.
And they have these like little, like 1 to 2 inch cactuses, like
Oh yeah,
bulbous shaped, sticking up out of the ground randomly. And so people watching people trip over those. Oh my gosh, it was
Runners or just everybody?
everybody.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there was any out on the trail, but like where the first aid station is, where everybody starts, there was a bunch.
they're like, and they look like if a cactus got buried, it was like around the whatever, but they're only sticking up a couple inches, and like
Just enough to get you.
Yes.
yeah,
Like a little sniper
they
Yes.
just.
thing. Like just
I tripped over him. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
mess.
I almost ate it a couple of times.
They weren't like straight out like toothpicks. They were, I want to say, I've seen some called like devil's tongue, but the quills, not quills, that's like a porcupine, whatever, the pins,
Yeah.
needles,
Thorns?
Needles.
something like that.
Or that.
They bent back, so I never got like poked by them, but you would trip and drag your foot on it and then it'd get caught. But that was fun too.
This is now a nature podcast.
yeah. Well, that's what I love about trail running, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a,
yeah.
yes,
You get all of that kind of stuff.
seeing it all.
You know, there's always some kind of obstacle, plant life.
Yeah, that you can't really
Rocks.
plan for or train
Yeah.
for until you get to that
Rattlesnakes.
course. Yeah.
Snakes. Yeah.
So did y'all go the night before and like set up a tent or any, like a canopy, or? Because a lot of races we've been to, people like to set up their own personal canopy.
Right.
Or they'll have their chair and their
Yeah.
crew.
When we got there, we set all that up.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
The morning of, we got a canopy and some camping chairs.
Good.
So that was nice because it was very cold and windy for a while, and then it did start to rain. So the canopy came in
I did not
handy.
realize.
Not bad. It sprinkled, but a little longer than some, but it wasn't
Yeah.
terrible.
Okay.
I was going to ask, because this was 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes. Yeah, right at
And-
2 weeks.
For the last several weekends, I mean, really the whole state's just been inundated with
Oh
rain.
my gosh, yes.
So were the course conditions
They were
really bad?
We were very questionable the week before it, of course. So I'm like, oh my God, my big race coming up. Here's my race I want to do, this distance I've never done before. And it's, that's the race is Saturday and it's like Tuesday, and I'm looking at the weather and it's still looking okay. It was going to be like 80 degrees. It may be cooler. It was starting to cool down, but there's a chance of rain that kept coming. And then by the time we got to Thursday, it was like, it really turned on. It was raining here. And then, cause up there it's different, 4 hours away. No, it was raining off and on. And I, kind of messaged, Briston, like, so how's it looking up there? And he said it wasn't terrible. There wasn't like a lot of standing water, which there wasn't, but a lot of the course was like tacky, like muddy, like just enough to stick
your
on your
shoes,
shoes.
yeah.
Yep. And pull everything. So, but not bad. And he sent out a thing too. Everyone got like okay, look, if you're out there and it starts thundering, it's on you, but you need to take cover and be careful and all that. And like, we were worried it was going to get like real bad. And it didn't. It was really nice. A little light sprinkle that just like cooled you down. And I don't think it got above like 70 something, maybe 74.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Well, honestly, you can't ask for better temperatures at that time of year,
Yeah.
because it could be.
Like, I thought it was going to be 80 something. I thought it was going to be
Yeah.
starting like the hottest day all year. And I was like, oh, it's going to be rough. No, the course was not super technical. You'd start off and it was pretty wide too. So I guess they drive for a good portion of it. It's kind of like Fire Road or Jeep Road or something, but pretty wide. All right, so there we have it. You can hear it started to be extra cool. Anyway, we'll pick it up from here. So yes, with the trail, it was pretty wide, like a Jeep Road. Most of the trail portions of it were grass. Early, the more, there's kind of a middle point too. It was grass that they had mowed. Again, pretty wide, like you could drive a vehicle down it. That was the most annoying part, because it was like maybe not super tall. It was beautiful. The grass that wasn't mowed, there was flowers everywhere. It was like 2 feet tall. You could see where deer had been like bedding down and everything. It was really cool. But the grass you were running through was maybe 5 inches tall or so. And it's like, you know, just tall enough to once you I was kind of puttering along and barely picking my feet up and moving, just constantly kind of kicking the grass. And then it's tall enough where you can't really see the ground and the condition it is in. It's partly a equestrian trail too, or that they let horses come and ride on it as well, or people ride through with their horses. So there is fairly quite a few like hoof ruts, little holes and things here. So I didn't like roll my ankle or anything, but it was just a little thing to complain about. Couple little hills. There was one big one that was nice to come down at least. It wasn't boring. It was that park was really cool. So getting into I guess I was gonna say getting to the first lap. It stinks so much because that, as we just heard, that was way more fun with multiple people talking, conversating, and that's what we like in a podcast, right? We want to listen for that. And we had gotten probably halfway through, and I double checked it and I had to pause it to something for my son, and it looked really weird. It looked like it wasn't recording correctly, and then for about 15 minutes it was just that it was a heart-wrenching understanding, but I digress. So getting through all that, there was a portion towards the end that you had to do. You couldn't really run. It was a bit of a climb in like a canyon tight area where you could tell there's a lot of water run through. Very, very nice overall. Very cool park. Definitely I'm not used to anything kind of open and canyon like that. It's a lot of just kind of tight trails out here. So that was really nice. Getting back on, each loop was about 12 miles long. Coming back the last, around mile 10 or so, I was getting like very tight just for not that far into a race. Calves were getting pretty tight. My hips and my lower back were getting really tight. My knees were kind of hurting, feet a little bit at this point. Those will get worse later. And coming into after the first lap, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not good. You should not be feeling like this already. You have 3 laps left to complete this 50-mile race, and you are not on a good start here. I not that you could, kind of stretch and warm up, but it wasn't like I was running out for like a 5K. I warmed up a little bit, as much as one I would think would do for a 50-mile race. Again, I'm not going to go sprint and be done in like 10 minutes. But I also think leading up to it, as last episode mentioned, I did not put in the miles that I wanted to, the volume mainly, that I wanted to get under my belt to get comfortable with that. And then with the Coyote race being canceled, that kind of threw me off, and I just did new job and everything else and yada, yada, whatever excuse. I could have got up early and put in miles in, but I didn't. I think that's what led up to it. The month, 4 weeks to 5-ish weeks leading up to the race, I was checking my Strava. I had like 34 miles. So in a month and a half, I ran 34 miles to get ready for a 50-mile race. I would not recommend, but I did get it done. I mental toughness and just wanting to do it and kind of being smart and listening to my body. But coming in on that first lap, I'm like, oh crud, I'm going to get my calf sleeves on. Kind of want to put those on anyway. I like them even if it's placebo or not, but I think they do help, especially how they were feeling. I was running with Aaron, brother Castanon. I can't remember his last name. Aaron C. He got third. That dude was moving and grooving. I did the first lap what I wanted to do. I wanted to be around 10. I knew that's not what the pace I was going to stay at, but I wanted to cruise through it, especially with the weather kind of impending of could be really bad, and watch out for thunder, and it could rain and hail and storm, and it was just kind of really all crazy up in the air. So I wanted to get the first lap done somewhat quickly to lower the risk, I guess, of being out there longer. That's not really a smart, I guess, thing to do. But I wanted to get it done quickly and see the course. And I was excited and do all that. And I caught it with Aaron maybe like 6 miles in the first loop. And we held about like a 10-minute pace for the rest of it. And we were coming back. I told him, I was like, I'm going to be a second. I'm going to grab my calves. Like I didn't want, like you go on. Do not wait for me. And like I said, he got third. That dude was moving and grooving. So congratulations, Aaron. He was doing great. So I get back to our tent, my tent, my hut, and my wife, who you heard a little bit, Jordan, is going to be waiting on me and her sister there. And I'm just, I just pop down real quick and maybe they could, just someone to talk to, tell them, complain to that I'm hurting. And nobody's there at the camp. There's empty chairs. It's been sprinkling kind of off and on, just real light, but nobody's there. I'm like, oh, all right. And I go plop down. I'm looking around like maybe they went to the truck to grab something, or they use the restroom, or they're getting some food. And, enough time for me to take my shoes off, put the calf sleeves on, retie my shoes kind of loose. I'm running my Saucony Peregrines, and I think Briston came by too and was like, oh, so how's it going, man? And he had asked me earlier. It might've been at that point when I came back, possibly, but he was like, have you not been like logging your Strava or what's going on with that? I said, no, I have. I just haven't been running. I think I maybe ran 30 miles last month. And he was like, oh, So, or it might've been before the race started, but I remember we had that little conversation and I was like, yep, here we go. Anyway, so we're feeling like hammered turd. And I go back out for the second lap, and again, I'm like, this is not good. Should not be feeling this way with so much race left to do. The weather's still pretty nice. It's cool. It's gray. It's not hot at all. Moving, getting through it. The back is getting super tight. I'm kind of fighting with wanting to go faster, but trying to be smart, not, trying to stay with my race. I don't like people passing me, but I was able to, that was my goal, was to complete it, knowing that, again, you didn't do what you wanted to do. So don't try to be competitive. Just finish it and do well. So that's what I'm working on. People are passing me. It's okay. I kind of get a little wind in me and kind of push. There's a guy with me kind of behind me, and we push to the aid station, and I got like sit down for a second, and I'm like bending over and stretching, and he takes off. But that's pretty much how the second lap went. Just hurting, actually. Probably the most I've ever hurt in a race. And we're talking maybe 20 miles in. The whole, so 2 laps would be on 24. So yeah, I'm at mile like 17 or so, and it's not looking good. Thankfully, by the end of the second lap, it all kind of eased off. My back loosened up. I don't know if it's something with the humidity. I tried to make sure I was taking in plenty of like electrolytes the couple days before. I don't know if it was just, again, the cramping and not being that ready or having the long car ride and not sleeping well at all, maybe 4 hours of sleep. I woke up like twice that night, and then again, the hour drive to the race, whatever, insert reason, whatever. But after I took the aid station, I took a little salt pill, drank a bunch of water, shot of pickle juice, went out going again. And by the end of the second lap, I was feeling better. Thankfully, everything worked its way out. I was even having little twinges and like ticks in my knee and my calves and like my hip of like cramps coming on. It's like, this is, again, not good at all. You're about to be fighting and digging yourself out of a well for sure. Thankfully, it did not get that bad, and it eased up at that point. And it was just my feet and the calves and hips were kind of there, but not too bad. But staying focused, trying to just stay with the mindset of being, completing it. This is your first one, and just do good. I kind of had a time in my head, which I shouldn't have, but I think it did help me. It definitely helped me push. My buddy Will, who's been on the show before, he ran it a couple years ago when it was really hot, and Aaron was telling me about that that year too, that he ran it, and they had to do 5 laps instead of 4 because they didn't. Texas Outlaw kind of adjusted the loop, so it'd be 4 instead of 5. But they were doing 5 laps back then, which 5 laps for some reason sounds so much worse than 4. I don't know if it's an even number thing. Like once you do 2, you're halfway done, and you got to do 2 more, and then you do 3, and you're like 1 more lap. But with 5, for some reason, it's like you do 3, and you're like, I still have 2 laps left, and then you're seeing the same stuff over and over, especially if it's out and back, like a lot of the stuff you're seeing, up to 10 times. I think that plays a big impact, has a big impact on the races. But Will had ran it. So not the same course, because he ran 5, and I can't remember his time exactly. I think it was close to 12, but we'll get to that later. But that was something I just had it because I knew it. I knew I had looked at it, and I knew he'd ran it, so I had it in my head. I was like, "Stop! It doesn't matter. There's your race." But it definitely motivated me. And so we finished lap 2, and hey, behold, my team, my wife and sister-in-law are at the camp. Like, hey, I think my wife had a sign, being funny, but happy to support. It was also my birthday, so I see what they were saying, happy birthday and stuff. I don't care if I mentioned that in the beginning part or not, but it was great for a birthday gift. So they were there, and she just kind of refilled the bottles, and I was like, man, I was feeling terrible before. I'm feeling okay now. The weather is still good, sprinkling off and on. Again, we were worried about some treacherous weather, thunder, hail, all that, and it was 70, low 70s, not a lot of sunshine, with light sprinkles off and on throughout the day. It was great weather. It was beautiful weather. I really, again, really wish I put in the time to run the best at my potential that I could have, because I could have done, better, of course. And it was a great opportunity to do it. So finishing up lap 2, feeling all right, better, just happy for that. Feet are starting to hurt. More like the top of my feet. Again, those peregrines, I wanted them because I wanted something more, I say like nimble or agile feeling, not as like big and boaty as the ultras, but that's why I like the ultras too. They're a little more comfortable, got that big toe box. But the peregrines are a little more aggressive, and I still really like them. But I haven't ran anything this long on them before. Last time was I think the longest I ran them was a marathon, on a pretty up and down, that Tina Haas marathon, and they were starting to hurt. The dogs were barking by the end of the race. So we're 24 miles in. We've done about a marathon, and they're like the tops of my feet are hurting. And I loosened them up a little bit and loosened them up around my ankles. Calves are feeling better. And we get out there and go, and I'm just plopping along. So we're starting lap 3. Again, weather's great, back through the trail, all through the little short grass and then the big open kind of trails, and it's still wonderful. And I get about halfway through, a little less than halfway through the 3rd lap, and I hear like a shake, almost like a rain stick or like a rattlesnake rattle. And that's exactly what it was. And it's something like primal inside of you that when you hear that noise, like I was feeling okay, still just moving along. And I had a couple people behind me, or kind of, with a little pack. And she was just, the person behind me, she was maybe 4 seconds behind me. And I'm in the middle of the air, like through a stride, and I hear like a ch-ch. And I jerked so hard to my left and like, what? And twisted, like my side cramped. And I was holding my side and looking, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a snake. And she gets a little closer. And she's like, what? Like, there's a rattlesnake right there. And she sees me holding my side, and she's like, oh my gosh, did he bite you? I was like, no. I'm okay. But be careful. And another guy catches up, and we're kind of checking out the snake, and we take pictures. And I'm like, we got to get him like off the trail. And now that it's the middle of the day and it's starting to warm up, like, what if he keeps moving out in the middle and he blends in like he's supposed to? And so we get some sticks and we kind of toss them at him, and he backed off the trail a little bit. And I texted Briston and told him like, hey, there is, for sure a snake on the trail. So, heads up, whatever you can do, tell people. And I get going, we take off again, and I started to cry a little bit. I definitely got watery eyed, because I got so worried that like I had to like pray. I was like, oh my gosh, please don't let anybody get bit by that snake. And because I was worried that I threw those sticks at it, that someone would want to be nice and move the sticks off the trail. So that thought hit me. Someone's going to come up. Hey, there's sticks in the way. Let me be nice and move these sticks and reach down right in front of that dang snake and then get bit because of me. And again, yes, I did. I like started getting teary eyed and cried like, oh my gosh, what if that happens to somebody? I was like, oh God, please, like, don't let anybody get hurt because of me, because I was like, it got emotional quick. And so, I can't do much more. But that's how the third lap went. Still feeling okay, but the feet are hurting. It's like the top. I've never had it hurt like this. This was a new race of pain, and it shouldn't have been. Again, my lack of training. But now we're at like, out of whatever, 30 miles or so on my in these peregrines, and the tops of my feet are hurting. So I get back to get ready for my last lap, and I take them off. I put my old Ultra off-roads on that are tore up and got holes on them. But that was definitely a good call. Feet felt better after I took off for my fourth lap. Didn't really do much. Took a little, I think I might have had a couple bites of ramen. And my fuel and diet for the most part had been a few gels. I got some Cliff Blocks. Let's talk about that for a second. I guess I've been missing what I've been eating. My stomach did hold out. That's kind of one of my saving graces that so far have not failed me. My metabolism in my stomach or whatever, like it works, or whatever I'm used to eating, and I try to throw new things in. I had a honey stinger, little stroop waffle. At this point, I had I was saving this. I did have some caffeine gum I've never tried before. I think it was one serving. It's two pieces, but it turns into one, big piece of bubble gum. I took that on the third lap at the aid station, a little after that. And that's supposed to be 80 or 100 milligrams of caffeine. I guess that helped. It kind of tasted funky, but I was whatever. I didn't have any goos. I did have a bunch of the honey stinger little like bites. I don't know what they're called. they're chews, and then some Cliff Blocks. I think I had a piece of bacon at the aid station, and I had to it wasn't like that cooked. But not too many calories, but everything was being held down and getting put to use, and it held out okay. So at the aid station, or back at the start finish line for the third lap, getting ready for the fourth lap. We're 36-ish miles in, and we're past like a 50K. So I have my Strava pulled up also. We didn't do too bad, because apparently I set a PR for my 50K at 6 hours and 22 minutes. The last 50K that I recorded was, I believe, the Sufferfest, and that I was with Will, or no, I'm sorry, not Will, I would say Chuck, but that's not Jeff, geez, with Jeff K, and we did it in like 9 hours, and that was the night race, and it was hot, and that was rough. But so, I mean, I'm essentially in a pain that I haven't been in, and it wasn't terrible, it wasn't that bad, it's just uncomfortable, the most uncomfortable I've been during a race. And I set my 50K PR, so that's awesome. It says technically I set my marathon PR too at 5:13. That's not the Tina Haas marathon that I spoke of earlier. It was like half a mile short of actually being a marathon, so that's why it's not recorded as a marathon distance. But that was way faster. Anyway, but. So although be it we're in a bit of pain and breaking into new distance territory PR, set a 50K, which I'm surprisingly about that and pretty proud of actually. So I get 2 to 3 bites of ramen in, and I get a couple of my own snacks things kind of packed up back in my vest, and I take off. I think I took a quarter of a quesadilla with me, and we go. Last lap. Going after it. The feet start feeling better pretty quickly after that. I don't know if they were swollen a little bit or not. I've taken a couple more salt sticks. Those seem to help a lot. My skin's starting to feel like sandpaper after we're halfway through, because I'm definitely not going to cramp. I'd rather start leaking sodium out of all my pores than start cramping up. Like, I'm going to finish this. And held true. I had, again, still kind of fighting with myself of wanting to go faster and race people, or push myself to not get past. There was a gentleman, I'll try to find his name. I also have the ultra sign up pulled up so I could see names and times and things. But there's a gentleman I met with. He was about to be 60 or 70. Let me see here. 50. I think that was him. Might be this Chris Barnes guy. He was doing this older gentleman that I was running with for a while. He had some poles with him, and he was making those things look awesome. He was moving good. Like we were both just kind of walking, but he was cruising, and I kind of catch up with him and he'd take off, and then I catch up with him, talk, and he'd take off, and he eventually left me. I had to stop and kind of like stretch my back out again. But this guy, this year he was working on doing all the distances. He had already ran 100-miler and 100K, and had done a 50K, I think, and he was doing his 50-miler now. Or he was going to do the 50-miler at Rocky, and it got canceled or something like that. We talked. There was words exchanged, I promise. But so best of luck to him, man. Go on. Oh, I can't remember the verse. Anyway, Joshua, go forward, be courageous and bold. But that kind of, I had to tell myself just to, run your own race. You're on the last lap, dude. You can do it. Don't worry about this. There was another lady who had like a bright yellow vest that kind of around the third lap, we were kind of going back and forth, and she was just like cruising, and then she decided to actually like kind of start moving and blew past me. She was like smiling. She was looking way too eased about all that. She did great. I don't know her name, but she did great. And the last got to the aid station, sat there just for a second, took a time. I think I just got maybe a shot of some soda. And went off. There was, now that I say it, actually on the third lap, there was a horned lizard, horny toad there. I've never seen one out in the wild too. So after seeing the snake, and then at the aid station, the Lone Star or Lone Ranger aid station, there was a horny toad just hanging out kind of by the station, and I took a couple pictures of it, and then it took off. That was really cool. But yeah, so back to lap 4, we're moving, mile 46 or so. The most bit of elevation towards the back end. Like I said, you kind of climb up through a tight spot, and moving, and we're like, oh, we're going to finish strong, and got it done. And we come in, I was happy about it. If I can pull it back up and see what like the splits or times or whatever it was, but it was okay. For the first lap, the first 12 miles, I did what I wanted to do around a 10-minute pace. And then we start, you could see it go 10-ish, 11-ish, okay, 15, 17, 15, 13, 20, slowing down. But the last few, around 12 to 13, I'm just kind of plopping along, trying. I was, walking some. I guess that's worth noting. I was trying to have some kind of a method. I didn't want to walk. I still wanted to keep pushing myself and go quickly and do good. As I mentioned before, I did kind of have a time in my head, and I think this did help me keep pushing. I'd walk from maybe 0.2 to 0.3, and then I would jog or move as fast as I could to finish that mile. Okay, you hit it. Where are we at? Okay, that's whatever, this mile. All right, walk to here, walk 0.20, 0.2. Okay, now run if you can. Walk up hills, take your time. If you're going downhill, pick your feet up and cruise, take that gravity, let it pull you down. I think, like I said, Will's time was just under 12. And I was like, man, if I keep moving, I might be doing okay. And I can beat that. Again, that doesn't really have any grounds in this. He had to do 5 laps on a different, loops, or not looped out, on a different course essentially. And it was super hot that year too. But that definitely motivated me and helped me to finish strong. And it, again, for being my first 50 miler, and we got it done, clocked it in at 11 hours and 11 minutes to finish the Chupacabra 50-mile race in Quanah, Texas. Was very excited about it, and very happy and pleased, and that I finished it not crawling, and I got the buckle. So got my very first buckle finishing a 50-miler. There's a handful that do it around 50. Most of them come in around 100K and higher. But the belt buckle's super sweet. And what a great birthday present, right? Man, yeah, learned learned a lot. After doing that, I was like, that's not that bad. Like if you were trained up now, that's what I'm thinking, right? If you were trained up like you're supposed to be, and you had, that kind of weather, you could get that done. You could have done a lot better. Or now, what about, you should like race like 30K or 50K distances. That's not bad. Yeah. And again, to think a year ago when I first did my first marathon, I was like, holy cow, almost 30 miles. It's that bug. It grows and grows. And you're like, what's next now? And that's what, my wife and other people are like, you ran 50 miles for fun, insert joke or whatever. No one was chasing you. Haha. But like, so what are you going to do next? 100K. I already had Lisa, who was at the beginning of the podcast, part of the Bros and Running Club. She was like, so we're going to be able to crew for you for, 100 miler coming up or 100K. Haha. Like, oh man, maybe. But we'll see. I'm really looking into now last man standing races. That is that mental side I really appreciate and I'm very attracted to doing. There's one coming up. There's also, again, by Texas Outlaw Running, they put on one called the Backlands. Instead of being 3 point whatever, it's actually 4 miles, because it's calculated as I don't know if it's a Texas term or something, but it has like a land of distance or whatnot. But oh no, that one's already sold out, so that's why I can't do that one. But I'm looking into last man standing races. So that if you're thinking about doing a 50-mile race, look, I had 30 miles under my belt, 34 miles under my belt in like 4 to 6 weeks. And, you do your race, you do your pace, be smart, and get it done. I had decent weather, thankfully, but you can only control what you can control. And it's a great experience. And then you get 50 miles done, and then you'll be thinking about, well, what's 60 miles and everything else. But I highly recommend it. I would like to do one again, maybe the same one next year, do the Chupacabra again next year, and then be able to really compare it. But we'll see, guys. But we got it done. So may the dirt be forever under your feet.